Hi everyone, hope you're well and welcome to my first video on Gran Turismo 7. The game's been out for a couple weeks now, as I'm sure you'll know, but I've been playing the game a lot. I've just not had gameplay to show, to be honest. I've been posting quite a lot of videos on my TikTok. If you're not on my TikTok, I would definitely recommend having a peek on there and give me a follow if you're interested in seeing short, quick videos. I've actually had quite a few get quite a few views. There was one that got, we could say, semi-viral with over 100,000 views. In terms of TikTok, I can't imagine that's much, but at least for the gaming community, I'd say that's a sizable amount. So I'm posting on there a little bit more regularly. I think particularly with the daily races and trying to showcase some strong content over the course of a full race. I've just not had anything to show really, and I think that's obviously because they held off on releasing Daily Race C, which was definitely a lot more closer kind of fighting in terms of racing. The Daily Race B was a little bit of a juggle. Obviously there's a lot of tuning going on, and then with the VRT it kind of just got a bit out of hand. So this is the first time that I've posted a Gran Turismo 7 video, and it did actually take me quite a while to get this gameplay. I've got two races today. This first one is a little bit of a shorter one. The second one, it goes right to the wire, and you'll see at the very end of the race, it doesn't get much closer than that. So yeah, I'll leave that as a little bit of a teaser. It's definitely a close finish, and George, as we were just fighting there, he's also in the second race. So this video definitely gives us a little bit of context for that, and there was some great racing in this first race. So you see there, just going through the chicane on the second lap, I get a half a second penalty, and I was over 1 second ahead of the guy in second, and served the penalty. Now this is a little bit where I make a mistake, so I put it into fuel mix 3 to try and save a little bit of fuel, thinking that because I'm going to be slowing the straights anyway. But then coming into the first corner here, I also completely mess up my gears and the corner entry, and essentially George comes straight through from nowhere. So that was definitely an error on my part, dropping it down into fuel mix 3 and then just making an arse of the corner, essentially. So that puts us down into P2, which isn't too bad a position, especially when we're behind George, because he is a quick racer, as you'll see in this in this video, and it gives us a little bit of an opportunity to stay within the slipstream and fuel save. Now, I race on controller, so I don't know if this is a little bit different for the people who race on the wheel, but when I'm trying to do my fuel saving, it just makes me very inconsistent as a player. And what I've actually found is it's better just to use all the fuel and save in one big moment. Now, as George has a big moment there coming out of the corner, so that gives us a great run on him just now, and he also gets a 1.5 second penalty there. So that was a big moment in terms of this race. But as I was just saying, yeah, fuel saving is quite big, particularly in this race, and for somebody who's on controller, I've changed up the settings a little bit so I can use the right analog stick to change the fuel mix, but it's still very tedious to do, especially when you're trying to be as quick as possible on the game. So that's us coming across the line just there, and that was pretty much the race. I kept George to just under a second at the end, and as we move on to the next race, you'll notice George is in third, I'm in fourth. So we know the pace that George has got. The guys in first and second, I would imagine, are very quick as well. That's something to keep in mind coming into this race, is that we've got George in front of us, so he's obviously got pace. Let's try and stick with him, and let's try and use the strategy to our advantage. We're a little bit limited because we can't do as much fuel saving, but particularly within the first few laps, it's all about just being consistent. And I've found definitely with this track and with daily race, the first daily race that we've seen on Gran Turismo 7, it's definitely a case of try not to die, essentially. Try not to get taken out, try not to lose your car, because it's it's a recipe for very close racing, but there's always winners and losers, and it seems to be definitely a case of trying to string a race together. I've had quite a lot where we'll be in the battle for first, second, third, and before you know it, first and second have a big incident, and and then I'm just left out there to see off the race. And similarly, it's been the other way around. So rounding through this first lap here, we've managed to hold it quite well with the group up ahead, and we're actually creating a little bit of a gap behind us to fifth. Javi, who's in fifth, he comes back in a little bit later, so we're almost at a second with him. And this is what I was thinking just at this stage within the race, is if we've got a pack of 4 and we're able to break away from fifth and try to to go ourselves, and try not to do any close fighting, as I outbrake myself a little bit. George did brake quite early, so that puts him a little bit of a place. And this is where we were thinking, because of that mix-up, let's just bump draft him. Let's work together. Let's get back with those front 2 guys up ahead, because we don't want to do any fighting between us and lose touch with those first 2 guys. So bump drafting George after that little moment going through the chicane. And that was one thing that I did notice with George, actually, was he was opting for different lines than what I was doing, and he was also braking a little bit earlier than what I would. So you see through this first corner, he usually takes a wider line, particularly through, so we go through the chicane here. When you come into this corner here, he definitely likes to go for a wide line, and then for the cutback, where I was opting for a little bit more of a tighter line. So you're always trying to look at the other driver, look at what they're doing, look at what their habits are, and without a doubt, George has the pace. So coming through here, first and second get very close. George actually nips up the inside of Bruce Wayne. I'm sure never knew Bruce Wayne was an Italian, but here we go. Now Bruce Wayne fights back instantly. He goes straight up the inside, and this creates a big opportunity for me to get a strong exit, which I do. Bruce Wayne doesn't get a good exit, and we're side by side coming here, hoping for George to come over and get the slipstream. Thankfully he does, and that puts us up into 3rd place. So great opportunity there. I think Bruce Wayne kind of just hung it out a little bit wide. George took the opportunity, and that was that. So skipping on to lap 3 now, George makes a move for P1. We're a little bit out of touch, but we are in the slipstream of the German in P2. So it's a case of let's try and break away here, because we've still got a second to Marjavi behind as we come into the chicane. It's a little bit of a tricky one. Didn't get the best run through here, as you see me flicking through it, and that's exactly why I didn't get the best chicane, because I was messing around my fuel mixes. As here we look, the Germans looking up the inside, a little bit of contact, a little bit more contact, and that's those guys. They come flying back onto the track, absolute chaos behind, and Marjavi, by the looks of it, gets away pretty much unscathed. And as we come in here at the end of lap 5 into the pits, I held Marjavi off a little bit of a gap behind, and what we do here is we put on a fresh set of hard tyres, and we actually refuel to 100%. I know I've seen a lot of YouTubers, and there's a lot of people doing a lot of strategies where they are under fueling, to the best of their ability, so that they can then elect to fuel save throughout the race. There's numerous benefits to that. You've got a lighter car, and it's definitely a shorter period of time within the pit stop. Whereas what I've found when doing that is, because I'm on controller, as I said, it just makes my racing and driving inconsistent, and I actually lose more time over the course of the race. So I'll just go to 100% at this stage. I'll go to 100% at this stage, and then that way I can just stay in the fastest fuel mix right till the end of the race, and don't have to do any fuel saving or any mixing around with that. And That for me works best. I know it's obviously not the best in terms of the grand scheme of the game and the best strategy available, but for me that just seems to work. And we come out here in lap 6 and we've got Dren up ahead. Now he hasn't pitted yet, so he's going to be slower. The Mazda is very good for fuel saving. Now normally what they would do is they would pit at the end of lap 6 because the car is very good for fuel saving in that regard. So we don't want to get stuck behind him too much. Now his pace is actually still quite good at this stage, even with the worn out tyres. So let's try and stay with him as best possible, but I'm very conscious of Marjavi behind. Now we haven't seen much of Marjavi throughout this race, but he does have pace and he was able to hold with us for a good period of time. So let's make the move on Dren. We're going to go round outside. Not the best option because you do lose quite a lot of time going from that wider angle. And as we look behind, that is Marjavi eyeing up Dren just there. Now I thought Dren would have went in for the pits there at end of lap 6. He's going on for another lap. Marjavi takes his opportunity and he moves up into P2. So this is us, a straight shoot to the end. George is there in P4, but we lost him throughout the race as well. So this is it. This is myself and Marjavi. Now, when you're put under this pressure, it can be easy to make mistakes and you know, run a little bit wide, lose a little bit of time during the laps. And this is where the fueling to 100% works for me myself. If I was having to do this, you know, defending whilst also having to save fuel and mess around with fuel mixes, then it would be a little bit more of a challenge. One thing that I do actually find when doing that is because you can't see the radar either, you have no idea when they're going to make a move or like what their positions are, and you can't really hear them either. I do know that you can see it next to the gears and the speeds, but it's not the best in terms of actually having an awareness, and that's even more off-putting, just not knowing where the other driver is. So that's something that, you know, it would be nice for them to work on maybe. I can't imagine them making any changes, but I do know, playing Formula 1 myself, they had a great system for being able to detect someone behind. Now, coming down the straight here, Marjavi in second. I did notice he had a far faster car in a straight line, whereas I was a little bit better in the corner. So he's coming down the outside here. I'll have the inside going into turn 1, which is what we want. So just need to hit the braking zone, hit it tight, not too tight because I've seen many people go into that wall on the left there, and we hold the position. He is side by side coming through us, a little bit of contact, a little bit messy, but we do have the inside. So let's get late on the brakes, position the car very well. No contact there, thankfully. He gives us plenty of racing room and some clean racing. We managed to hold the position. So great racing between the both of us, great attack from him, and overall just great driving in general. That's definitely, you know, one of those corners where I could have been a little bit tighter to the apex, but we managed to keep it clean, and we're both still in the race here. So this is one of these corners where we come through and we extend the gap a little bit, but then Marjavi is able to pick it up coming down straight. So you see we extended that gap to 0.6 of a second. As we skip on to the final lap of the race, now we managed to hold him to 0.6 of a second gap, but this is everything to play for coming down into the chicane. Just need to make sure that we get a good chicane, a good exit, so that we can get that home run nailed perfectly. Now coming through, it wasn't the best chicane for me. It wasn't by any means terrible, but Marjavi gets a phenomenal chicane and he is right up behind us. So we just need to keep it tight, hit the gear changes, hope that we can make it for the line, because, you know, it's pretty much out of our hands at this stage. He does get a good slingshot by the looks of it. He's coming down on or outside. We do have a little bit of a shorter run to the line. He has pulled it ahead. Can we make it? And there we go. So Marjavi sticks it ahead by 0.023 of a second. Great race from him. great battling earlier where it was clean, so yeah, hats off to him. He made it stick when it counts, and yeah, great race. Hope you are all enjoying Gran Turismo 7. I am myself. Good to be back on the YouTube videos, and this is my first video on Gran Turismo 7, and there'll be many more to come in the future. So if you do like this content and you're looking for more, stick around, hit subscribe. We've got more coming in the future, and I'll see you in the next one.